All right, this is our next episode of True Wrestling Fan Discussions, continuing our retro pay-per-view review series. It's gonna be WCW Slamboree 1994. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Man, let's get into it. May 22nd, 1994, the second annual Slamboree, a Legends reunion in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, of all places. A capacity crowd of 4,000 on hand for this one. Watch out, man. Um, and by this point, Philadelphia has become ECW territory. So it's anybody that tries to have an event in Philadelphia, you're going to get the ruckus crowd going. And boy, they didn't disappoint in this one. A few things to point out before we get started. There was a couple of replacements. One, Cactus Jack replaced Dave Sullivan in the tag team title match due to Dave Sullivan's injury. And also, Ravishing Rick Rude was replaced in his match with Vader with Sting. They used the storyline of how their title match in Osaka, Japan, how blatant Rick Rude was to during the match.
The belt.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much, the bottom line was that he suffered a career-ending injury and he was done at this point, unfortunately. So, yeah, Rick Rude is done at this point.
He actually did defend the title after that, like on a house show or something like that. Maybe one or two house shows. And then they ended up, he ended up not fighting. And they said that they stripped him. But we'll
Yeah,
get
and then
into it later.
the whole story with Bischoff, how he went to go collect the belt and
Yeah.
stuff and
It was a little
whatnot.
bit of a mess. I think they had a deal with ECW at the time too, WCW, some sort of a talent exchange thing where they because I think Funk might have been working for ECW at the time.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
He was kind of back and forth.
Yeah. So they had they had a deal with Bischoff to let him. They sent somebody down there. I forget exactly who, but there was some sort of a deal.
And then this was also the last pay-per-view of that rampway that they would
Oh,
have
thank
to the
God!
ring.
Yeah.
I hated it. I hated it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this would be the last of those. Before the night kicked off, Mean Gene acknowledged all the legends that were on hand. Ole Anderson, the Assassin, Penny Benner, Red Bastien. I'm sorry, Penny Banner, not Benner. Tully Blanchard was there this time around. The Crusher, Don Curtis, Vern Gagne, Hardboiled Haggerty, Larry the Axe Henning, Killer Kowalski, Ernie the Cat Ladd. Wahoo McDaniel was back again this year. Angelo Mosca, Harley Race, Ray Stevens. I mean, this is the who's who of back then. Lou Thez, Johnny Weaver, Mr. Wrestling 2, and Tommy Young. And the one guy that wouldn't show up out there was Terry Funk.
Yeah. I guess he was running. Probably running late. I guess he was running late because he shows up to wrestle tonight.
Oh, yeah. You got to love Terry Funk. Every time he comes out in an acknowledgement ceremony, he comes back to wrestle.
Yeah.
Because he did this in '89 with Flair. And then he does it here.
Yeah, and then doesn't he have like his last match? Is it Terry Funk with Bret Hart in '97?
Yeah, his retirement match.
Right, and then he came back anyway.
Exactly. He wound up, Chainsaw Charlie.
So.
And ECW champion in '97 as well. So he was still quite busy because this was the start of his comeback because then obviously him and Bunkhouse Buck would be a tag team for the next few months and whatnot in the stud stable. So yeah, every time he comes back in an acknowledgement ceremony, he takes off the tux and puts the boots back on. Yeah. In any event, following this, Nick Bockwinkel had come out and he brought Sting to the ring, and they announced that they stripped Rick Rude of the international title, World Heavyweight Championship. I don't care. He's a champion.
We spoke about this. He's a former WCW champion. We don't care what
exactly.
Says.
Thank you. I don't care what anybody says.
That whole fiasco with the NWA pulling out, and then they didn't want to recognize Rude, and so they switched it to the international. So Rude is not recognized. That's nonsense to me.
It's bull crap. He's the World Heavyweight Champion. Period. He returned it to Sting as a result of their match in Japan. Sting said he would only accept it if it was put up in the match against Vader. So technically now the title is vacant. Vacant holds it again.
It's a vacant title, yeah.
Who would win the match tonight? Yeah.
This was such a mess because the thing was that obviously, like you had mentioned in the beginning, Rude gets a back injury versus Sting. He had that Lloyd's of London policy. So there's rumor and innuendo that he might have been hurt, and he was kind of maybe exaggerating because he knew he could collect on the policy. Either way, I think it was a legitimate injury.
I think it was too.
Rest in peace to him. Only he knows how bad it was or it wasn't. But anyway, The whole thing with Rude is he had a lot of heat with Flair at the time because Flair was actually the booker at the time. And so what Rude wanted to do was Rude wanted to come out on this pay-per-view and cut a promo explaining how, what happened, that wasn't his, wasn't his fault, and the whole Harley race being involved and all this other stuff. And they felt that that would give Rude like kind of like a babyface look, and
Yeah,
that they didn't want to
does
do it.
come off as that.
Yeah, so whatever Flair wanted Rude to do, Rude told him to piss off, and he walked out of the arena because he was supposed to be there that day, and he just walked out, and and
And of course,
then the whole thing with the belt, the whole thing with Bischoff,
oh,
how Bischoff told him he had to give the belt back, and he didn't want to give the belt back, and he like met him outside in the parking lot, and
opens up the trunk
there's a
and
loaded
so
gun
yeah, the gun and the belt and said, "Which one do you want?"
or something.
Or something like
It was
that.
something. But the way that Bischoff told the story, he said that he didn't think that he knew that Rue was pissed off, but he didn't think that Rue was actually gonna do something.
I don't think. I
And
think
he,
Rude was pissed, but I
because
don't
they
think he was
knew
gonna
each
do
other,
nothing.
right? Because they were kind of friends. They knew each other from like way back in the days too.
Yeah,
So
I think it was just Rude being
he
pissed.
was really, really upset, and
Who can blame him? I mean, he's
like
at
I
the
said,
prime of his career. He's
yeah,
champion, and then this
they didn't.
happens.
I think Flair told him, well, they don't see you as a draw. So there
Oh,
was a lot of stuff.
please.
He wasn't happy with his position. He kind of wanted to be the face of the company, not Sting. And then you got Hogan on his way in there.
And of course, Hogan was going to bury him
Because he
if
said, but he
if
also
he was
said he
there.
wasn't, from what I understand, he said he wasn't putting Hogan over. I
I don't
think
blame him.
I think he said he wasn't putting Flair over, and there could be one other person. I don't know. So this is Ric Flair's exit, unfortunately, because I would have loved to have seen Ric Flair. I'm sorry,
Rude's
this is Rick
exit.
Rude's exit, and unfortunately, because I would have loved to have seen Rude going forward '94, because he was still young. The guy was still young. He was early 30s, I think, at
Yeah.
this time. Yeah. So
Put it like this: from '92 to '94, the top three guys in that company were Sting, Vader, and Rude.
and
I don't want to
Rude,
hear any other
yeah,
argument
Rude was a little banged
of
up.
Flair or Simmons or
Yeah.
Dustin Rhodes. No,
The
those three
shame,
guys were your top guys.
the shame is Rude was a little banged up in his WCW. I think it happens like around '92. He starts getting injuries, and
Yeah.
he kind of works through it. But so we got to
I mean, he
vacate
was
that.
working those crazy Iron Man matches
Yeah,
and everything else that he
shame
was
because he was
putting himself
phenomenal.
through.
Yeah, he
He
was phenomenal.
was
Yeah,
definitely
yeah. So we
one
got
of his best match ever in WCW was against Ricky Steamboat in the Iron Man match.
mhm,
Hands down, one of the best matches ever.
yeah. So
So it's just a shame that this happened to him and he had to go out this way. But I mean,
here's what it is.
think about it because they're also mentioning Hogan during this pay per view.
They are
So eventually, because Hogan with the one title, one champion. So they're going to do
the
a
unification.
unification. So it's got to come down to Sting, Vader, and Flair. And definitely Sting. It's going to be Sting and Flair that have to unify this belt. If Rude was still healthy and had this belt at the time, I don't think he would. I don't think he would have done it just to cater to Hogan. I really don't.
Probably not. Probably not.
So, but any event, let's get on to it. Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan doing the commentary. Opening match was for the U.S. title. You got Stunning Steve Austin defending against Johnny B. Bad. This match was actually pretty good. I
Generally
liked
bad.
it. I look at him, I see Mark Merrow, but whatever.
Marvelous
Marvelous
Mark.
Mark Merrow and Stone Cold
Stone
Steve
Cold Steve
Austin.
Austin, yeah.
But this match itself was pretty good. Robert Parker kind of added to it. It's funny because he distracted the referee while Bad had Austin rolled up for the victory and for the pin. This is Johnny B. Bad trying to go for his first title. Bad got a hold of Parker. Of course, Austin comes over, accidentally hits Parker. I love that one. Bad rolled up Austin. For whatever reason, it was a 2 count, but with the ring announcer, they ring the bell. So they messed up there because Bad actually thought he won the match. So stops what he's doing.
This is WCW.
WCW at their finest, man. Bad went for a back suplex on Austin, but he reversed it and pinned Johnny B. Bad for the victory. Steve Austin is still your United States champion for now until Hogan gets there. Wants to change everything up. So following this, Mean Gene had interviewed Wahoo McDaniel and Big Cat Ernie Ladd. I had seen a few. If you watch the old school on the network, they got a couple of the matches from the '70s, and one of them is Ernie the Cat Ladd, and man, he was very agile in the ring and very good. I liked watching him in the ring. For our next match, they had Gordon Soley come down to commentate, so everybody's gonna go to sleep on that one. No, I'm just kidding. I like Gordon Soley. This was Tully Blanchard versus Terry Funk. Yeah. Oh, by the way, did you happen to catch in the last match that the fans were chanting to Robert Parker, JR2,
They were?
to refer to the Dallas show?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. You have the fans there. You had ECW guy was there, the guy in the Hawaiian shirts and the hat, straw hat. You had the WWE guys from the '80s. You had him there, the glasses and the shaved head. Mm-hmm. So these were the diehard fans mm-hmm. that they had. That you almost had. If you think about it now, we kind of have that in WWE to this day. You have the Trinidadian guy that goes to every pay-per-view, and you have the smiling guy, this with the smiling tie-dye shirts. But not tie-dye, the neon shirts. Mm-hmm. They're at every pay-per-view, kind of like these guys were.
Super fans. The super fans.
Yeah. Where are they getting their money? I'd like to know. In any event, Funk and Blanchard pretty much, you might as well just have made this a street fight between the two, because that's what this pretty much came to. It ended in a double disqualification. Of course it's going to, because not only does Funk hit the referee, Blanchard hits the referee. He used the branding iron on him. Both referee finally threw it out. And what's funny is, talking about ECW guy, Funk steals his hat mm-hmm. and actually elbow drops it. So this is Funk and ECW. This is his crowd. He got over on it. This match went about 7 minutes, and there honestly wasn't a wrestling hold in this thing. This should have just been a street fight. But overall, it wasn't bad. Blanchard still looked good in the ring. So following this match now, Jesse Ventura was in the back interviewing Ric Flair. His upcoming match against the mystery opponent that he has no idea who he was going to face. Following this now, you had another, it was sort of a Legends match, but it wasn't. It was Larry Zbyszko versus the TV champion, William Regal. And
a living legend, Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah, well, it's actually funny because with this storyline, he winds up later on winning the television title unaired.
Yeah.
And then loses it at the following pay-per-view to Regal. But, that was kind of like his last hurrah mm-hmm. back in the ring, because he had just been there 2 years prior, and then he had retired. Although I still think he could have done it, but that's your boy.
He did fight Scott Hall, though, so, but full time.
And he did pretty good in that match.
Yeah.
So he wasn't bad. He was still in shape though when he.
No, he was. He still was.
And especially when he fought Scott Hall, thank God he was still in shape, because if he wasn't, that match would have just stunk up mm-hmm. the joint.
Yeah.
So during this match, it was a typical wrestler's match, mm-hmm. if I said that right. Between the two, Zbyszko was getting the one over on Regal. What's funny is Regal goes for the butterfly suplex. Zbyszko reverses it into a pin and actually beats Regal, and the crowd went nuts. Regal is irate. This is what set up Zbyszko to be the number one contender. It's just a shame that they did not air the match when he won the television title. Unfortunate. So, but in any event, moving on after this segment, Mean Gene Okerlund had interviewed Terry Funk in regards to what happened, why he didn't come out earlier in the night, and his actions against Tully Blanchard. And he had mentioned that since Dusty Rhodes was out in Hollywood, that the son of a plumber's son, business would be open against him. And also prior to that, Mean Gene was mentioning the interview that he had with Hulk Hogan that would be aired on Saturday night, because we all know what's coming in the next few days. The end of WCW.
I mean, it wasn't really the end of WCW. It leads to the NWO. So
it does that. I just don't understand. Your first match in, you get a world title match.
Hulk Hogan. He's Hulk Hogan, man.
I know. It's Hulk Hogan. But at least the match didn't disappoint. But anyway, following this, they did the Hall of Fame induction into the ring. Gordon Soley had inducted several members once again. This year's, in 1994's inductions were Harley Race, the Crusher, Ernie the Cat Ladd, the Assassin, Ole Anderson, and Dick the Bruiser was an honorary mention. He had passed away recently, and I remember the Crusher saying that it was nice to see his tag team partner go in with him during this match. Some of those guys really look like they could still go.
Yeah.
And like especially the Crusher. He looked like he could, whoop somebody once more in a steel cage match. He was infamous for his steel
Yeah.
cage matches.
The cat kept wrestling.
Yeah, yeah, he was doing some on and off independent stuff
Yeah.
still. Following this, Jesse Ventura's in the back. I love how he's been demoted to backstage interviewer at this point, not
Yeah,
commentator.
he's gonna be fired pretty soon.
Yes, he is.
Once
Unfortunately,
Hogan gets there, see ya.
you're out of here.
That's it. Yeah, he was already on bad terms with Eric Bischoff at that point.
You
So
can kind of tell
yeah,
considering he lost his seat out front.
yeah, his days
Is
were numbered.
numbered.
And I love
Yes,
Jesse, but his days were numbered.
I do too. But and he's starting to look like that governor politician
Yeah.
thing there. So
Supposedly he falls asleep. For those that don't know, supposedly the story is he fell asleep during some taping or something, and then Bischoff fired him. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. But there is also rumor that it had something to do with Hogan because him and Hogan had a lot of heat.
yep. And still to
And
this day, on a recent interview, Jesse says, I can't be friends with a guy I can't trust."
yeah, for those that don't know, it goes back to Jesse was involved in wanting to start a wrestling union in WWF, and supposedly Hogan is the one that stooged and ratted him out to Vince that he was trying to start the union. So that led to heat with Jesse and Vince, and then Jesse found that out years later on that it was Hogan. There was a deposition when Jesse, I'm being long-winded here, but I want people to know exactly where the heat came from.
Yeah,
Jesse ends up suing Vince for his likeness and his them using his him in Coliseum home videos, him doing whatever he was doing, broadcasting, whatever. He wins, but in that court deposition, the lawyer asked him, "Who's the one that told you about the union?" And Vince said, "Hogan told me Jesse said it." So that's a long story short of the heat between Jesse Ventura.
and that's the end between the two
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
And like I said, he said, I can't like a guy. I can't
Yeah.
be a friend with a guy I can't trust."
I don't blame him, man.
I don't either.
Blame him.
So in this case, he was interviewing Colonel Rob Parker, trying to get the scoop as far as who Flair would be defending the title against. Of course, Parker wouldn't even tell him. It was no big surprise if you watched WCW back then who it was going to be. So our next match was a bull rope match. It was Dustin Rhodes versus Bunkhouse Buck. Oh boy! And this wasn't your average bull rope match. You didn't. There was no four corners and stuff. It was pretty much just you guys tied
Mhm.
together. Whoever got to the middle of it got to use the bell and wallop your opponent as much as you wanted. And Rhodes did that on Buck
He's a
constantly.
natural. Yeah, he's the natural.
He's the natural,
Yeah.
especially these matches. This is at the point where Rhodes is kind of declining into '95,
This guy cut a
and then
promo,
we
right?
all know why he left.
Dusty had cut a promo too from Hollywood, right? Talking about how he was supporting him and everything, and
Yeah, and that's where Funk used it. He
always
goes, "Oh,
felt
since you're in Hollywood, it's open season on your boy."
yeah, I always felt bad for Dustin Rhodes in WCW because I felt like he couldn't get out of his father's shadow, man.
He couldn't. I think they should have had a match. Honestly, I think they should have.
Yeah, I mean you could have done that. Yeah, I know. I see where you're going with that. Like to prove
That could have
like
main evented. Yes, like Dustin Rhodes belongs, Dusty doesn't.
yeah,
Why not? Everybody else is doing it.
yeah, because he had talent, man. He could
Yeah.
he could, later on we see it with Goldust, but you know
Here he
he's a
could have
good
been.
worker.
He never got a WCW title shot, despite the fact of being U.S. champion,
I
so
think
being the number one contender.
don't quote me on this. I think I heard that he was supposed to feud with Hogan and Hogan squashed it.
That's not a surprise.
Anyway,
It really isn't. I mean, if that's the case.
yeah,
But by the time Hogan got in, Dustin was not exactly where he was
yeah,
2 years prior. 2 years prior, he was like one of the hottest things on the market. And so by this point now, I mean, he's fighting the stud stable, which is crap. So, I mean, yeah, at this point, there really wasn't much to him. And then, of course, the last straw was the King of the Road match
Oh Lord
where they
Jesus,
bladed, and then they fired him. And,
yeah,
he goes goes on to WWE to be a drag queen. So, but in any event, um, during this match, conveniently, the ref went down. No big surprise there. Parker got into the ring. He went to use the cowbell on Dustin, but Dustin hit Parker. Then used the cowbell on Buck and gets the pin. So, I mean, you got a just under 13-minute match. The bell was used. They did what they needed to do. Dustin gets the victory on it. What's funny is what happened after the match,
mm-hmm.
because you knew what was coming based on the comments earlier. Terry Funk attacked Dustin Rhodes
Yep,
and busted him wide open.
yep.
So now, once again, Terry Funk is at a ceremony and he's back wrestling.
Yep. And then
You get middle aged and crazy. He's back again.
Dustin got it beaten.
Dustin's going to get quite a few beatings upcoming,
Yeah.
facing Buck and Funk. So following this, now Mean Gene had interviewed Red Bastien and Crippler Ray Stevens, and then following that on the card, Jesse Ventura came out to do. He actually did the commentary on the Ric Flair match, which was nice to see. Probably your final endeavor. Ric Flair would defend the WCW title. Then it was decided, it was shown that it was Barry Windham,
which we already know.
Exactly.
We know it was Windham.
If you watched it back then, you knew
yeah.
that Windham was coming back to get the rematch.
Yeah.
It was no big surprise.
Yeah.
No big. It wasn't Sid Vicious, who some people thought could possibly be.
No, Sid's a lot bigger than that.
And Sid's gone at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, Sid was not coming back after the what happened with Arn Anderson.
Yeah,
Scissors incident. Well. So the only guy it could be at this point was Barry Windham. There was no big free agent on the market at that point.
He wasn't
to bring in for this.
He wasn't in good shape at this point. I didn't think he was in the best.
Windham?
Shape. Yeah.
No, he wasn't. You could tell. He looked winded during the match with Flair. He looked better in the first time they fought when Flair took the title off.
Right,
as opposed to now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Flair, and what's funny is the one time Flair's gone off the top rope, 100,000 times in his career. The one time somebody doesn't catch him is during this match. He does a crossbody and gets the pin on Windham.
Yeah.
Not even his finishes. It's like, wait a minute, did Windham forget to catch him or something? Because Flair never makes that move.
Right.
He goes up to that top rope, he's getting hit.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of shocked me was either somebody dropped the ball or they just said, let Flair have this one.
I think it was that. Yeah.
So prior to that, Parker had held Wyndham's hands to kind of secure a pin over the rope, but was on Flair, but was unsuccessful during that. But again, the highlight of this was Flair a cross body drop and getting the pin on Windham.
Yep.
Mind-boggling to me. So Flair retains the WCW title.
They probably wanted to do something different, and they probably were like, because Windham wasn't in good shape, they were like, all right, it's time to just end this match.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that much longer than the previous match. It was like a little over 13 minutes, so not your usual world title match time.
Yeah.
Usually they go anywhere from 15 to 20. So yeah, this was kind of under it. Following this one now, like once again, Mean Gene Okerlund was interviewing Don Curtis and the Crusher. Following that little segment on there now, they showed what led to our next title match. It was for the WCW tag titles. It was a Broad Street bully match with special guest referee Dave Schultz, former Philadelphia Flyer. And pretty much this is a Falls Count Anywhere match for anybody that doesn't know what a Broad Street bully match is. And what's funny is this whole night, Mean Gene is aggravating me with if you want to see Cactus Jack banned from WCW, it's option 5. What the hell is he doing? One of the best matches on this card that night.
Yeah,
and he's trying to get this guy canned.
I mean, it's part of the story, but I don't know. It's just, it was unnecessary.
6 times.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this was one of the best matches.
I think he does it after the match too, right?
Yes, he did right after the match.
Yeah.
He goes, after what we've just seen, I can't see how anybody would want this guy here. Mainly because he's a draw.
So call the hotline, for $100 an hour.
Yeah, Mean Gene was a little shyster on that damn thing.
Scheme
Gene, exactly. Yeah. Now this match itself, the Nasty Boys defending the tag titles against Cactus Jack and Kevin Sullivan. I mean, the fact that Cactus replaced Dave, the odds are in their favor because Kevin Sullivan's a wackadoo to begin with. Cactus has never been all there, and the Nasty Boys, who I love, fight out of New York, but they ain't.
Well, they're from Pennsylvania, so then they're in hometown.
Well, this is right up their alley then. And of course, Dave Schultz, getting in it now. He brings down a hockey stick. Obviously, this is gonna play into the match later on, which didn't make any sense to me. But this match was just pure 100% hardcore. I loved it. The fans loved it. Mean Gene hated it. Bobby and Tony were kind of a little scared being down there in the whole thing. What's funny is Sags threw Cactus off the ramp, which onto a table, which was great. Cactus got busted open at that point. Sags went. Now here's where I said the hockey stick came into event. Sags went to go use the hockey stick during the match. Schultz goes nuts on him and attacks Sags, pulling the shirt. And I'm like, what is he doing? What? Because you don't use the hockey stick? Okay, newsflash. Don't bring it.
Yeah, I don't
This
know.
didn't.
But it
This
was just the
part didn't make any
hometown. It
sense.
was just a.
I know.
Yeah.
But Cactus used the hockey stick on Sags and got the pin, and now we've
Yep.
got the new tag team champions, Cactus and Kevin Sullivan. Unfortunately, this friendship between those two would only last as long as they had the tag titles, because the minute they lost them, they're having a career-ending match
Mm-hmm.
between each other. Kevin Sullivan flipped again.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't give him
Just
his
the
electroshock therapy.
Taskmaster, the Taskmaster.
Oh my God! Fighting out of Singapore, you
Yeah,
gotta love it.
Dungeon of Doom coming soon. Anyway,
Oh Jesus! What was what was the group? The
yeah,
Hulkamania, the
the
Alliance.
Alliance, the Alliance to end Hulkamania.
2-on-8 match and they win. Great booking, guys. Anyway,
Yeah.
after the match, Sags was still attacking Cactus Jack. Out now, all of a sudden, here comes Max Payne. He comes down, hits Sags with the guitar. Dave Sullivan comes out.
That guitar shot looked hard, man.
It did look like it was a pre-cut.
Yeah, man.
Somebody screwed up there.
I don't know.
Unless Sags said make it look real. I don't know.
It looked
To
hard.
me, it looked a little too real.
Yeah, it did. It did. Yeah, it
But-
was like when Honky Tonk Man hit Jake.
Yes,
Yeah.
just it didn't seem right.
It did break, but this one looked brutal. But
Yeah.
yeah. So
And then Dave Sullivan comes out, on the crutches. He hits Brian Knobs with the crutch, and so these guys are walking off the new tag team champions again.
Mhm.
Not going to last that long.
and this guy's lying in the ring for a while after.
Oh yeah, they had to help him out and
Yeah.
everything, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
God. In any event, this gave Mean Gene another chance to say give
Yeah.
option 5
Yeah.
on the.
We gotta get this guy out of here. We gotta get this guy.
Yeah,
out of here.
this guy's a menace to wrestling. No, this guy needs to face Hulk Hogan
Well, that's
or
fine.
something,
Yeah.
because Cactus is something that wrestling hadn't seen, and was still in the infancy stage in ECW, but people were catching on and enjoying his style. And I don't. You still had the old codgers who are not accustomed to this. So, but Mean Gene took another shot at him right before he interviewed Vern Gagne and Luthez, and even Vern Gagne didn't like it. And again, that was your era. We're in a new era now.
Mhm.
So now on to the main event for the international World Heavyweight Championship. Call it what it is. It was Sting versus Vader. What's funny is, I don't know if you caught this, Michael Buffer kind of screwed up. He got the ref's name wrong. Called him Randy Peterson. I'm like, no, guy, it's Randy Anderson, but thanks for coming. It's all right that we give you probably $2 million per appearance, and you're over here screwing. The one thing all you got to do is read cue cards.
Not the first time he messed up.
Oh no, definitely not. This match was a typical Sting versus Vader match.
Mm-hmm.
They left everything in the ring. It was a great match between the two. What's funny is during the match, Sting went for a flying clothesline on Vader, but of course he hits the referee. Referee's always going down during these matches. Vader choke slams him, goes for the pin, but there's no referee.
Yeah, the referee's out. He's out.
Yep. So Race grabbed a chair to hit Sting, accidentally hits Vader. Sting laid out Race, and then DDT to Vader. He went for the Stinger Splash. This was cool. I liked it. He went for the Stinger Splash, and Vader caught him and power slammed him. And,
Yep.
and at that point, you're like, okay, this is it. Vader's winning the match. He goes for the moonsault. Unfortunately, he gets a little greedy and misses it. He on top, and Sting goes for the pin on that one. Harley Race goes for a flying headbutt, misses, and hits Vader.
Missing, he hit Vader, yeah.
Oh my God! Now we've got the Siegfried Follies going on here. Like Vader and Race are just can't get it together here. Sting goes to the top rope, hits Vader with a splash, and again, something that Sting doesn't normally do, gets the pin on Vader. Sting is now the new World Heavyweight Champion.
Or the International
Championship. If you're going to do that to Rude, do it to Sting and say he wasn't champion. but they do count Sting as being champion now. Go look in the record books; they count him. Well, if you can count him, you can count Rude.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm sorry, you got two guys here to say Rude was champion.
Yeah, Rude was champion, man. I don't care what anybody says, man. I
Anybody
mean,
that held that title during the time of Flair returning, they had the two belts. They were recognized as champion. I don't care.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just as
So,
simple as that.
and this is all going to set up is the unification
Yeah,
match basically between Flair and Sting, where Flair is going to win both belts, and we're back to one. Why? Because Hogan wanted it that way. Makes it clear at the end of Bash at the Beach: one man, one champion. Shut up, Hogan.
so
There could have
anyway,
been
yeah,
there could have been two champions.
yeah, no, I know.
Not a big enough
I know.
roster to support it, but
Yeah. All in all, this was a decent pay-per-view. It wasn't terrible. It was better than the year before, I think.
yes, the last few
Yeah,
matches
last few
were
matches.
really good. The opening match was solid, which is what you always need to start a pay-per-view. So yeah, no, it wasn't bad, and
Yeah,
the inductions was definitely
that was
worth it. All
cool.
those
Yeah,
guys were tremendous athletes.
definitely. All right, well, that's our review. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care.